Rachel Macy Stafford, she is the author of Hands-Free Mama, posted a recent blog article about her daughter's friendship. The daughter's friendship, in the article, the daughter was not named and the friend was called Elle. Due to time, there's no way to actually share with you this entire article, but I wanted to share this section with you. Rachel says, "When my daughter came off the school bus that hot September afternoon, it was obvious something was horribly wrong. With a weary heart, I suspected it was homesickness due to a recent move. Once my daughter's words came out, I would have paid anything for homesickness to be the problem. A boy on the bus had said these vile words to her precious friend. 'I hate black people.' I began to shake with anger. 'What did you do, honey?' I asked semi-calmly. Her daughter answered, 'I asked Elle if she was okay. She didn't say anything, so I just scooted closer.' Wiping tears from her eyes, she admitted, I didn't know what to do, Mama, so I just hurt with her. I hurt with her." It took me a moment to recover from that. "You did the right thing," I said once I found my voice, and then I told her I must do something. I asked if she would prefer I speak to the boy's parents or to the principal. The next day, my daughter proudly reported that her teacher unexpectedly walked the girls onto their bus. The teacher put her arms protectively around my child and her friend. The longtime educator announced to the boy and those seated around him, "You mess with my girls, you mess with me." Elle felt stronger and less worried after that, my daughter said. My teacher had our back. My daughter had said, "our back," not Elle's. I took note. This article not only reminds me that we need to celebrate the wisdom of our children and those parents and teachers who walk with them, but I did find myself also questioning the follow-up with the boy on the bus. Where did he learn this statement? Where did he learn this type of hatred? How difficult was it for him to have a teacher stand in front of him in solidarity with two other girls? Did the teacher end up calling the parents? Did the boy have parents? Did he really mean it? Did he really understand what he was saying? I found myself in this article hurting with the girls in the story, but also really hurting for the boy in this story. Who did he feel was standing with him? Who in his world had his back? Who hurt with him? Who noted his needs? What had happened again and again to lead to this point of such a cruel statement from a child? As children, we know that many stories have a bad guy and a good guy. But as we get older, we understand that life is not that easy. Reconciliation isn't just about helping those who need help, but changing the world that we live in so that this young boy and these younger girls do not have to know hatred at such a young age. And while the boy in many ways isn't really to blame in this situation, we start to ask the question, who is to blame? Because we love, as people, to blame. We have to blame someone, we have to blame something, and yet our scripture today reminds us that blame is not actually what we as people of faith are called to do. Last week's scripture, the one we read for the first week of reconciliation, reminded us to be thankful and forgiving in the midst of dissension. And as we look at today's scripture from the Gospel of John, we see that the disciples, much like us, were trying to figure out who to blame for the man's predicament. The disciples, like many of us, want the simplicity of a good guy and a bad guy. But it's not that simple, and Jesus reminds them, the disciples, that their question is the wrong type of question. The question question isn't about how the blind man was wrong or had sinned. The question that actually should have been asked is, how can this person, a blind person, a beggar, reveal light in the midst of knowing darkness? How can this person in this situation be changed from darkness to light? To be a people, once again, of a risen Christ, we must remind ourselves that it is the light that frees us. The darkness does not come, though, from being perfect human beings, but light comes from human beings willing to follow the teachings and life of Jesus Christ. And Jesus' life was not one that was easy. He made many people angry on his way to resurrection and redemption. And his task for the blind man did not come easy either. Jesus did not go poof like a magic trick and help this man suddenly be able to see. Instead, he gave this man steps that needed to be followed. The light, both figuratively and literally in this story, only came when there was a willingness for the man to literally get his hands dirty and find a way to wash clean in the water. The water whose name actually explains that a new person has been sent. You see, the sharing does not end at the moment the blind man can see. In fact, that is just the beginning when the blind man is finally able to be heard. You see, the miracle isn't the ability to have sight. The miracle is actually that all of a sudden this man is able to be heard. The man who was just a poor blind beggar was not a person that people would hear. You think about it, that the Gospel of John is filled with these kind of stories of people who are not able to be heard. The Samaritan woman was also not able to be heard, but Jesus gave her a way to be heard for generations to come. You see, Jesus hurts with us, not for us. Jesus hurts with those that we often see as other. Jesus asks us to find ways to take note, recognize and love, and stand with those who are other in our world. Because at some point, all of us in our lives feel that we are also the other. At some point, we know what it means to be alone, misunderstood. We know we need God and love unconditionally and the protective arms of someone who can help support us. I do not stand most weeks in this pulpit just for you. I stand here because long ago I was called to stand for others. And I work with you to help the other. I stand here to help all of us, myself included, again and again, try to find the right questions and conversations, to help ask the right questions and respond in the best ways, and try to share the most loving insights. I learn from you all the time. The insightful Susan Lynch reminded her table at the Mission First Gathering that if you are hungry, it is hard to see God in the world. I think we can even expand on her wisdom and words. If you are tired, it is hard to see God in the world. If you are hurting, it is hard to see God in the world. If you are lonely, if you are homeless, if you are unhappy, if you are silenced, if you are ignored, it is hard to see God in the world. The disciples are asking the wrong questions. So often we ask the wrong questions. Not only are we sometimes like the disciples, but many times we are like the blind man, not able to see God, and not able to have others recognize that God is still able to work through us as imperfect beings. This scripture, like I said, is not a miracle of healing one's sight, but of healing one's insight. Insight does not come with a magic trick. It comes with a miracle. And miracles do not come in happy ways all the time, but it comes with getting dirty in a complicated world so that our eyes can truly be open to how Christ can work through us alongside the other, who then does not become other, but becomes us. We are called again and again to hurt together and to heal together. We are called to reconcile and not just read the stories that are in the Bible, but be the people who are experiencing the stories that God has called us to experience. And it's not easy to provide healing. It is not easy to provide healing to ourselves, to the marginalized, to our children. But again and again, it is what the gospel calls us to do. Help us. Help us all for our sight and our insight. Amen.